Welcome to Conscious Eye, living in authentic connection and harmony with self, others, and the world, featuring Ravi and Savitri.
Savitri.
Good morning, Ravi, and welcome. We have an interesting day coming up, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But meanwhile, I think we have someone that you've known very well joining us this morning.
I am so excited for today to introduce Sami from Dandy Apothecary. There's so much to say, and I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I just want to say our journey together has been long and has had its moments of intertwining and separating and intertwining. And I am so, so grateful to know you and to that our paths are coming back together and crossing at this very pivotal time. So welcome to the Conscious Eye. Thank you so much for being here. We are thrilled to have you. And before I let you introduce yourself, I do want to just mention that our past couple of episodes, we have been talking about really the heavy things that are going on around us in our country and in the world today. And we're going to shift that focus today a little bit to envisioning the world that we want to live in and what we want to see around us. And that's why we brought you here, because you are mad on that path, and we are so excited to hear about that. So without further ado, I just want to turn it over to you, Sami, and just let you tell us a little bit about you and what you are doing.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is very exciting. Things are moving very, very, very quickly. A lot of things are manifesting for a lot of powerful women that are coming together in this area to actually make a difference. The world's been real heavy. And there's a lot of things that get you down and stuff, but there are things we can do to make a difference. You guys have talked about it in past episodes, spiritual hygiene and having a practice and doing the yoga and doing the things that ground us. But we've got a divine feminine rage coming up right now. And I think it's time rage is not a bad thing. Rage is how activism starts. That's how we change the world. And there's some powerful women coming together here that we're going to change the world. It feels like the grid is lighting up. It really truly feels like change is right here, right now. What do you want to do to make it better?
Tell us a little bit about your journey, because if I go back a couple, it's like, where do we start, right? But I go back a couple years ago when you reached out and you had quite an intense spiritual awakening.
Oh, it was very, very intense. And I had to go through the dark night of the soul and kind of just really accept that everything I had ever been taught was upside down. It was all wrong. Nothing. And the trauma that came out of that, the trauma that I inflicted myself because of not even understanding what was real, I had the existential crisis, I guess is what you would say.
Yeah.
Realizing that it was all upside down.
Mm-hmm. Well, and side note, so we grew up in this with a very similar religious background. So my mom and Sami's mom are sisters, and her adopted mom, and so we have that same. Although it was a little different, I think where your mom. I grew up in the apostolic church, very deep inside that. Your mom didn't go that route, but it was still that very strict religious, upbringing.
Mhm.
And I feel we both have gone through that waking up to, oh wow, this has been so harmful to
Every
me. Yeah.
it really, really, it was coming out of what I realized was a lot of self-hatred. It taught me to hate myself and seek something outside of myself to save me. And then you get the victim mode, you get all these different parts to it. But at the basis, I feel like what religion did, and the traumas that I went through as a child too, um, really had me at a place where I didn't even realize it, but I think I kind of hated myself. And I
Well,
had to unpack a lot of the indoctrination and see the world for what it really is to come out of it. And really my spiritual journey has been, I'm going to say, dirt church is where I pray, putting my hands in the soil, being outside. I was blessed to be able to be in Hawaii for a couple of years and spent hours by myself on the beach, just comforting that little girl, you know what I mean? And really healing and, you know, getting a lot of messages and stuff about who I really am and what I really bring to the table. And it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, it gets torn away from us. Um, my upbringing may not be exactly the same as yours, but it was very dogmatic in its approach. And the family that I grew up in, they would say informally, but I would say rather formally, they had in their mind a designation of what each child in the family would grow up to be. And we were sent in that direction. I was the nun. I was going to be the nun. And so that was really interesting in that way because you talk about an existential crisis. When I left to go to college for the first time, one of the first classes I had was existentialism and phenomenology. Well, let me just say, for a freshman in college, that was quite the experience. But, and meanwhile, I love what I see behind you.
It's
What
my
do you have on the
apothecary.
shelves? Yes.
That is my apothecary. I've got all my herbs, and this is where the magic happens. I create a lot of
yeah.
products, and yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Dandy Apothecary and why you started that brand and what you're growing through that.
Well, part of my journey was realizing who I was when I was a kid, like reconnecting to what brought me joy. And I saw the value in weeds when I was a kid. I went around door to door selling dandelions because they were beautiful.
Hmm.
And so that's where Dandy came from, Dandy Apothecary. There's dandelions in just about every product I make. And I saw a need. We've got a lot of, we're being bombarded by a lot of toxins all around.
Hmm.
Poisons, I mean, you can't. They spray them in our skies, on our food, all the things. And I just have sat back and seen how sick we are as a nation and as a people. And it's so my heart was in detoxing and making it taste good. You know, like I was really wanting to get some of these herbs into my grandbabies and, working with cacao and working with, the, plant medicine is just very much who I am. And I feel like it's what I can bring. It started with a body oil. During my journey, I made a body oil because I wanted it to have intentions in it. The things we consume and put on our body, it kind of matters where it comes from
It
and
does.
the intentions behind it, and where we're sourcing things from. It matters. We can make a huge difference in the
You
world.
know,
Like,
Absolutely. In fact, when I remember going through my yoga teacher training and we talked about, just the preparation of food. And there are some places that I really enjoy going out to eat, but when you think, I don't go out to eat very often. And when I do, it's very intentional. Because when you think about this fast-paced life, and if you are creating an environment, a work environment where people don't want to be and they feel miserable there and they don't want to be there, and they're making your food, think of what energy you're putting into your body. And
That
there is so much, like, so just like you said, the things that we put on our bodies, the things that we put in our bodies. And it's, I think intention can also reverse things. This is why we bless our food.
oh, sure.
And we can, or it can transform, I guess is a better word.
Alchemy. It's alchemy.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But when we start with the products that are made from a place of nurturing and love and intention and care, that has, I mean, I can feel it. I feel that. I put your body oil on today. I kept that one for myself because it feels so luxurious, and it feels special. It feels it smells good. It makes my skin soft. It makes me feel like a goddess. And I take that energy. Exactly. And I take that energy with me throughout the day. It's a completely different experience than just putting a $3 lotion on my body. I'm going to say it feels different. It makes my day feel different. When I treat my body with that level of care, when I start my day with that level of care, I feel like it gives me a sense of that self-care and self-love that I take with me throughout the day.
Yeah, it's
I,
building resilience so that when you go out, I was reading a post this morning about spiritual bypassing and how that's happening with practices in yoga. And I just want to address the fact that we talk a lot about practice as being an important hygiene for us. We talk about it in a way of building internal resilience, and it sounds like your products are made with the love and the care and the intention to be able to help with that. Is this bypassing because we want to feel good and build resilience and have a practice? No. If we go out, like you said, Ravi, if you go out to eat and it's food that's made by individuals who are just slapping it together and, meeting the quotas or whatever it happens to be, that has actually a sense of negativity that starts to come into the body. And you may not feel like it's digesting quite well later. Um, and the same thing happens if we're not prepared by taking care of ourselves and having a strong, resilient, courageous individual as our soul. We we will not be offering the collective the energy that we can to advocate for what we feel is right, to be able to meet those conflicts and confrontations. So I thank you for the love that you share in your products and that whole multiple shelf. They're stuffed. They're packed with
I
items.
just keep expanding. I love it. It really is about intention. When people preparing your food are angry and they don't want to be there, or the people who are making the products are mass producing it for money and
Yes.
using cheap stuff, it's not any good for you. It's not going to be good for any part of you. And I think that's where the body oil came in, because that was the very beginning of my self-love journey, where I was actually doing things with intention and taking care of myself and thanking my body. And because I abused it, I abused my body. I was 365 pounds, and my skin is not as tight as it would be if I didn't ever weigh that. You know what I mean? But it's that part doesn't matter. I'm more comfortable in my skin right now than I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Than I've ever been. This is a healing journey, and we cannot pour from empty cups. And our women and our mamas are pouring from completely depleted cups, and our kids are suffering for it,
Yes.
including my own kids.
Mm.
Suffered for it. They didn't learn from me what I was trying to teach them and what I was telling them. They learned what they saw me do.
Mhm.
So I think that's why my focus is really, really, we're creating something called Sisters of Life, Sisters of Light, where we can go get to these young girls before they have kids, and we can teach them to love themselves, teach them to do everything with intention and with meaning. Even stirring your coffee should be
Mm.
with intention, speaking over your water, speaking over your body. It all makes a difference.
Mhm. Mhm.
I want to circle back to that in just a moment. I have real quick, I want to say, like, no shame to people who work in any sort of restaurant
Right.
industry. I only want to say this because we're going to talk about it a little more too, and that is part of what the patriarchy has created. What is this environment of everything comes down to the dollar? The mass production. Are we squeezing the most out of every person so that we can get the the most dollars out of it. So that is part. Those folks who, the society that we're all living in, we're all victims of it. So, I'm not out here to victim blame anybody. However, like something that you just expressed through what you just said is this awakening to seeing that, right? And here's what I have seen as you've grown through your journey. Like, as you sit here, this really beautiful, radiant being, you are the most radiant I have ever seen you. But you at the same time have taken, like, nothing in that has happened in life has been your fault. It's like, it's not my fault, but it is, but you're taking responsibility to be different when you know different, right? When we know better, we do better. And so, I mean, some of the things you've said, like what you just said about stirring coffee, Savitri and I have talked about this before, like, everything can be a practice. When you're cooking, when you stir that pot, just stir the pot and really think about where your state of being is in that moment. And I've heard you say something similar, like there have been moments in your life, when you're making dinner, and I can only imagine, as I'm not a parent myself, but every parent has experience, like making dinner, being like, doing this again in front of
Right,
the
right.
kids. So I just want to recognize and honor that in you, that it takes, this life is about seeing ourselves, and there are many, many people who are going to walk through this life and never truly awaken to who they are. Maybe they won't get it in this lifetime. So I want to just honor and recognize the work that you have done in yourself, because you've come from some tough, tough places, and to be able to say, oh, I recognize that and I see that, and now I'm going to do differently, that's what we're here for. And many, many people never get there. So I know you do, but I know you see that in yourself, but I want to shine a light on that and just say, wow, wow, because you have alchemized yourself, your family, and now you're alchemizing your community, which is beautiful. And anywho, I had to go there, but I also would love to hear, like, you mentioned this work that you're doing, that you're taking out into your community. Tell us a little more about that, like how it's happening, and what you're doing there.
Well, it's been a very, very magical journey where I've gotten these connections. I didn't feel like I was ready to start Dandy Apothecary. And I'm like, am I ever going to be ready? So I jumped in. We rented a shelf and we jumped in. And the first market I did, I met a beautiful light, a beautiful light. Her name's Patience, and she works with me now in the apothecary. And It's led me to the yoga studio, Art of Yoga, which has been every person in that building has got their own magic and their own, like, it's such a neat place to be, such a safe place. I feel like I'm finally finding my community,
Mm-hmm.
of like-minded people where we can brainstorm and we can put things together and really make a difference. I'm meeting up with Pauline today, and she started the Energy Squad, and I haven't even met her in person, and I love her. We talk about how we manifested each other. Like, this is what we wanted all along, was a group of people that just want to change the world. We want
Mm-hmm.
to do things differently. We want to teach better, and I really feel like it starts with the young women. I hope that we branch out and reach young men as well. Um, but we're really, I just can't wait to see what this turns into, because it's already getting big. There's several other businesses we're talking to, powerful women and powerful men, that are crossing our paths, and I can't wait to see what we can do.
And I will want to, because you are in Alabama.
Yes.
And so we'll put some links in our show notes, so we can point people in that direction if they're local, or people can just check these places out online. And so this work that you're doing with young women, you've got a couple of places that you're working with in your community, right?
Yeah, we've got a group home that we're working with. It's about 20 young girls we're going to reach um, for Valentine's Day. We figured that was the best time to go, really truly show them love and teach them what self-love really looks like, because it's not what we've been sold. It's not what we've
Right,
been
right.
sold. Loving yourself is not about shopping and, doing all these other things. Loving yourself is.
So something you said just there stood out to me. It's self-care, self-love is different than what we've been sold. And I think so much of, growing up, we have these expectations of what relationships will look like, or what they should be, or what we need to be in them. And then we try to mold ourselves into that. And and I think too, let's bring in a little bit of the water that we're all swimming in, of the patriarchy, where women are second class citizens. You are expected to conform to everyone else's needs, to work and serve everyone else's needs. And in that, we get lost. We lose who we are, who we are at the core. And not to say that, service isn't important, but not service at the cost of self. So what I'm hearing what it sounds like, or what I'm hearing, is that that's the kind of self-care, self-love that you're bringing into your community through this work that you're doing.
What's interesting is that today Moon is in Pusha Nakshatra, and he's visiting Pusha, his wife, Pusha. And Pusha is the region of the sky that is most nourishing others. Too often the depletion of self. And I couldn't resist. As I wrote the moon brief this morning, two things came out. One was, we just went through an existential crisis, and I heard those words come out of your mouth a few minutes
Absolutely.
ago. And now we're talking about the next nakshatra, which is Pusha, where the karmic lesson is to learn how to love the self, nourish the self, and be whole, so that we're not nourishing and nurturing others within a conformity, a vision of another. And that's where women are brought up. I was going to use the word trained. I'll put it in there if anybody wants to put it in there, or programmed to
Absolutely. That's
to
what it was.
nourish and be and serve for others. And there are things that are shifting. I have to go there because it is. And we find divine feminine and divine masculine who are not on that pathway, that are on the pathway of balance and nourishing self and others. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, is that with practices, if we are resilient and whole within ourselves, then, as you said, we can't give if our cup is empty. We need our cup full, or at least half full, to be able to share. So, coming into our own self and getting to know who we are and celebrating that with whatever celebrations are important at the moment, give us that energy to be able to go forward and then connect with others. So, in some ways, if we're being asked as a society to nourish, nurture, nurture, be this way or that for another or others, for an image, a presentation, um, as the perfect woman, right? We know that that exists. We talk about it all the time. And it just went through a wave in the yoga world with, perfect poses, perfect bodies in yoga. And people that the majority of us don't have perfect bodies, right? So that whole scope is out there. But I think that's something that I hear you come to these girls and say, this is what you're seeing, and you look in the mirror and don't see that. So now let's put it together. Let's look in the mirror and see what's really there. So thank you for getting that started. And yeah.
Oh, it was a spark that has just ignited a flame, and it's time to start the revolution. And that's
Well,
how we started, is reaching our young people. And I never had somebody, actually. The first time I really learned about yoga and anything spiritual was from Jenny.
Mhm.
And I was like so indoctrinated. I was so indoctrinated. I was like, oh my gosh, this is not what I've been. This is not it. Yeah. And then when I had my existential crisis, Robbie was the one I called. I
Mhm.
was like, I don't know what's going on. Help me. And she did. She's just amazing.
Mhm.
that was the most fun to watch you. I mean, it was just so great to see you. I'm like, to see you go through it. Thank you for, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of that, because it's a difficult and painful journey at times, to see all the shadows of ourselves that we've been carrying with us for so long. And that's what true, like, the rise of the matriarchy is supporting each other through those dark times and saying, yeah, you're going to go through this, but you're going to get to the other side. And I was thinking too, how I think I don't want to speak for both of us, but I have shifted so much because of my growth journey, how I interact with other women. I think that the patriarchy I had developed a lot of internal misogyny, just through the way, we do when we grow up in swimming in patriarchal waters. And now there's a whole different way of connecting with others, especially other women, when you reach this point where it's not about competition. It's not about who looks better or who does better or it's about shared competence and nurturing each other and recognizing the gifts in others and creating space, because there is always space for all. And I think so that's just been a huge shift. And I think, and the reason I think that has happened for you as well is because of the way your community is developing. When we shed those layers, those barriers that kept those people out, they just come pouring in.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome to see that happening for you, because that is proof in the pudding. That is the evidence of the work that you have done now flowing in. Because when we, what we do through life is we build walls and we build protections, and for very good reason, because we've gone through traumas and harm. And when you realize that those are no longer serving you and you really do the work of bringing those down, life flows in. And it's just been amazing to watch that happen for you.
Oh,
Mhm.
this has been, it was letting go of a lot of fear, because even right now I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I don't necessarily, it's not comfortable being seen. It's not always,
Right.
I've been called to get out of my comfort zone a lot. You know, where you talked about the competition, and that's a really big thing.
Mhm.
You know, some of my dearest friends, one of my dearest friends launched her business making the teas and stuff at the same time, but we're not competition. We need every bit and every single one of us to step up to our power and our potential, so we can work together. And actually, she's not my competition, she's my friend. And I
Mhm.
want her to succeed as much as I want to succeed, you know, to create a different legacy for our communities and our families and stuff. And
Yeah.
we're not competition. We need as many medicine women and men out there as we possibly can get.
Yeah.
Every single one of us is important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
And
I
the
love that.
nuances. Yeah, the nuances are so important because what you said about not having that competitive relationship with her is so important because there are differences. And by having a whole, even if it's similar, there are going to be differences where these folks resonate with that and these folks resonate with this. And so it's a way of taking the message out and allowing it to have many tendrils and connections. So that's a beautiful message. Thank you.
And and it is the intention that you, especially when you're creating products and services with your intention, that is what people are drawn to, is your energy. The product is great because it's holistic and natural, and it has, it has a function and a purpose to serve. But what's really happening is your energy is being infused into that, and it's being carried out into the world. And I think, that's where we're going. That's the shift that's happening, ever so slowly. And there's a, through this disruption that we're seeing. So again, our conversation today, and I know in some upcoming episodes we'll be talking a little more about the, balancing the patriarchy and the matriarchy, what divine energy really is, masculine and feminine. But I just so appreciate your perspective, because you're living it. And that's what this is all about. We can talk all day, we can read about these things all day, but it's about carrying it into our communities just by being you. You don't have to start doing something amazing and huge, and I don't just I think we think that one small action isn't going to make a difference, but it is the only thing that makes a difference.
Yes.
Is stepping over that threshold of fear, saying, stepping through the door of I'm not ready, to okay, I'm doing this, and the universe just like whoosh, okay, here you go, you're doing this.
Yeah, the road gets paved. Yeah.
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 It's been very interesting, the synchronicities in how things have aligned, how I've met some of the people that I've met. There's just some real, there's like all these things that I wanted to create. There's people that have already created them, and I can be a part of it, you know, so I don't have to start from scratch. You know, I get to be a part of, you know, beautiful things happening everywhere, you know, and the people that I have met here in the tribe I see forming, I just cannot wait to see how big this grows.
I was at a
I'm
retreat this
excited.
week And I just have to say, I think what you just said is so critical in that they said there are no new ideas on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
There are no. What's
Nope.
new is how you bring that idea out and offer it to the world. And it will be slightly shifted or turned. It will have a different flavor. And in your case, we started talking about the love that you infuse in all your products. That's you. It's not me. It's not Robbie. It's not anyone else that's in your community. It's your love. It's your energy that's in that. And so that was a big aha for me because, of course, I knew there were no new ideas, but I think we sometimes get caught up in, well, like you said, my friend is making teas and I want to make teas. And that, rather than be divisive, can be integrative and unifying. So,
We
yeah,
share each other's magic. I use her products and she uses some of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I think the competitive nature that has been something that the competitiveness and what is valued as a whole in the distractions that are being used and being mindful of what we consume, not just into our bodies, but on our bodies, into our mind is even more important.
yeah,
We've got, a lot of my heart is really into like detoxing the body, mind, body, and spirit is all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Stepping up my yoga practice since I got started in art of yoga has been so huge in how I feel and grounding my energies because right now I feel a bit scattered. I feel like there's like so many moving pieces, but I also have a sense of peace. I know that we are being divinely guided on this path and those synchronicities. There's no coincidences. There's synchronicities and things that are put in our paths that are meant. And we need to choose if we're going to do them or hide because you're
Yeah.
scared, which sometimes I kind of want to get under the blanket, but
oh, yeah.
and color,
Mm-hmm.
I just, it's a little bit overwhelming. And the fear, I think a lot of us have a lot of fear because we're living in a very gaslighting world right now. Like
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
always something and there's terrible things going on. And I'm seeing people that I truly love being bamboozled. People don't want to shut off their cognitive dissonance. They cannot just admit, oh, maybe I was wrong about that. And maybe I need to look at a bigger picture because they
Mm-hmm.
just can't. And it's hard to admit you're wrong. It's hard to admit that you might have kind of been a butt. I mean, but
That
it's time.
that paradigm shift, it pulls the rug out from under people, and
Mhm.
all that you built your foundation on, if it's been built on lies, then that's a very scary thing to let go of because it's a free fall. And that is where the practice comes in, like the grounding and the community. And I want to go back to something that you said very early on in our conversation, but that you stop seeking outside sources because source is in you. So it's an inward journey. And when you go inward and you start building your foundation from that inner perspective, that can never be taken away. That is never going to fall out from under you. You might rearrange the blocks. You might need to do some masonry repair, to fill the cracks in here and there. But, you have that security knowing that that is truly from you, from your connection with source. And in that union, nobody can come and destroy that. You have, of course, the opportunity to reimagine and rebuild and to take it different directions, but nobody can come and rip that away from you. It's a completely life takes like the perspective changes immensely when you stop seeking for solutions outside of yourself.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And validation, that like seeking the validation. outside of ourselves. You know, the synchronicities, the feathers I find, the angel numbers, you know, those are our signs. Those are
Yeah.
how we know we're on the right path and that things are, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
getting out of fear.
learning, I always have, like, through my journey, I guess I should say, speak for myself, but um, hearing your intuition is different than listening and acting on it. And so there's that process of, awakening and awareness. So just to our listeners who maybe are going through their first kind of like, wait a minute moments, wait a minute, life doesn't seem to be what I thought it was, and it gets really scary. It's a process, and you'll be guided to experiences that will provide opportunities for you to hear your intuition, but then also to really listen to it and to act on it. And it's okay if you pass one or two up. They'll keep coming, because that's how it works. We just keep getting those lessons until we learn them. So I, for one, am super excited to see what happens in the next couple months, in the next year, and I will really be looking forward to having another conversation with you, hopefully here on the Conscious Eye in the future, to just see how much you have grown. And yeah, I'm just putting that out there because I know that time will come too.
So
I appreciate the opportunity.
could you tell us a little bit about how people can contact you?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not super literate on electronics. So right now I have Dandy Apothecary email. It's dandyapothecary444 at gmail.com. And I have a Facebook page, but I have not gotten my socials and stuff up yet. They're
That's
very,
okay. And your Facebook page is Dandy Apothecary, right?
yes, with a purple logo.
And we can link to it. And local folks can find you.
I have a booth at the Vibe on 6th Street in Columbus, because most of the people I'm working with are actually in Columbus, Georgia. And
Okay.
there is a booth in there, and it's just a cool place to be. There's like 70 plus vendors. They've got a lot of cool oddities and vintage clothing. Like their business model is sustainability, and like it's a really cool place, and really cool people will run it.
Cool. So people can find you locally. We will post links. And I, psychic as I am, see another conversation in the future.
Absolutely.
But I want to.
Also wanted to add that my products are also in the studio Art of Yoga in Columbus, Georgia on Armour Road. And
Okay.
I highly recommend you go do a yoga class. These teachers there are amazing.
Yeah. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I love seeing your face and getting to talk to you anytime. So this was super special for me, but I hope for our listeners as well, because this is the time. It's the year of the fire horse. It's moving and shaking time, and you're living proof. So
let's start a revolution.
Yeah, yeah, we're on it. Right on top of that, Rose. So
become a Jedi Master and join the resistance.
There you go. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I feel honored.
Thank you.
Guys invited me.
I really enjoyed our dialogue.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Satnam.
Namaste.